All right, let's dive right into this explainer. Today, we're taking a look at IT infrastructure, but through a completely different lens. We aren't just talking about a bunch of dusty servers and tangled networks here. We are talking about the absolute lifeline of your business's survival and growth.
I mean, picture this. Imagine a massive flood wiping out your primary data center in a matter of minutes. Or, say, a catastrophic system crash hitting you right at your absolute busiest hour, like right in the middle of Black Friday. What actually happens next? Without a meticulously crafted plan, your screens go black, the transactions completely stop, and your customers just leave. Surviving those make-or-break moments? It's not about luck. It is entirely about architecture.
So let's get into Section 1, the MIS Infrastructure Foundation.
What I found really fascinating about this is realizing that this infrastructure is so much more than just hardware sitting in a back room somewhere. It's literally the central nervous system of the company. It's your comprehensive blueprint for exactly how a firm builds, deploys, uses, and shares all of its essential assets. If this foundation is weak, well, every single business application you've built on top of it is totally at risk.
And this gives us a fantastic roadmap for how we're going to break this down today. MIS infrastructure essentially rests on three primary pillars. First up, we have information. That's to support your day-to-day operations and recovery. Next, we move to Agile, which is all about supporting growth and change. And finally, sustainable, for those crucial environmental initiatives like cloud computing. For this explainer, we're going to focus heavily on the operations and agility pieces.
Moving right along to Section 2, Backup and System Recovery.
You know, people mix these two terms up all the time, but they are very distinct capabilities. A backup is merely an exact copy of a system's information. It's just a snapshot in time. Recovery, on the other hand, is your actual ability to get a system up and running again when there's a crash or failure. You can't just have a copy of your data sitting on a hard drive somewhere. You absolutely have to have the means to bring your systems back online efficiently when things inevitably go sideways.
To achieve true recovery, organizations rely on a few very specific mechanisms. First is fault tolerance. This basically allows a system to just keep operating normally, even if a component fails. Then we have failover. That's what happens when a primary server crashes and the system seamlessly redirects everyone to a secondary backup server. And finally, failback is simply the process of reverting back to the primary system once it's fixed. These mechanisms right here, they're exactly why you can stream a movie or check out of an online cart without ever realizing a server just crashed behind the scenes. Pretty cool, right?
All right, Section 3, Surviving Disasters and Outages. Let's raise the stakes a bit.
Enter the Disaster Recovery Plan, or DRP. This is a highly detailed process for recovering your information or your IT system following a catastrophic event. Think about it. When there's literal water rushing into the lobby or a fire takes out the power grid, human nature is just to panic. Having this detailed disaster recovery plan written down beforehand is the difference between total organizational paralysis and an immediate structured response that literally saves the company.
Now, check out this fascinating intersection. Notice how the soaring costs your organization when technology is unavailable perfectly crosses the massive upfront cost of rapid recovery. Where these two curves cross visually defines the absolute optimal disaster recovery plan for your specific budget. It forces you to answer the ultimate business question: how long can you actually afford to be down, and exactly what are you willing to pay to get back up instantly?
So, depending on where you land on that cost curve, you'll have to choose a physical recovery location. You could pay a premium for a hot site. That's a fully equipped facility where employees can move in immediately after a disaster and just resume business with zero downtime. If budgets are tighter, you might go with a warm site, which has the equipment but requires some installation time. Or you save a bunch of money with a bare-bones cold site. That's an empty facility with absolutely no computer equipment. It takes way longer to set up, but it gives your team a physical place to gather and start rebuilding.
Which brings us to Section 4, Business Continuity Planning.
Notice the escalation of IT planning here. It's like leveling up. You start small by simply saving files with backup and recovery. Then you step up to disaster recovery, which ensures you can survive a major localized hit, like a flood. But then you reach the highest tier, business continuity planning. This overarching strategy gives your company a way to restore critical functions within a predetermined time after a major extended disruption.
And a true business continuity plan is comprehensive. It basically surrounds your business with layers of protection. At its core, it's supported by the disaster recovery plan we just talked about, alongside technology recovery strategies,
emergency notification services to alert your staff, and crucially, a business impact analysis. Each one of these nodes represents a vital discipline you absolutely need to keep the lights on when the world turns upside down.
Let's zoom in on that last component for a sec. A business impact analysis identifies all your critical business functions and the specific effect a disaster would have on them. This step is absolutely vital. Before you can protect your systems, you must fiercely evaluate which specific business functions you truly cannot live without. Look, if the internal payroll system goes down for a day, it's bad. But if the customer transaction system goes down, you go out of business. This analysis tells you exactly what to prioritize when everything is on fire.
So once you know what's critical, you apply your technology recovery strategies. When an incident occurs, your recovery has to comprehensively cover 4 specific domains. You got to recover your hardware, your servers and computers. You must recover your software, things like email and messaging apps. You have to restore your data centers, getting climate control and power supply back online. And finally, you have to recover your networking capabilities, ensuring your wireless, LAN, and cable infrastructures are actually communicating. Miss just one of these domains, and honestly, the whole system stays broken.
All right, Section 5, Agile Infrastructure and Networks. Let's talk about growth.
The absolute most important characteristic of an agile infrastructure is scalability. This measures how well a system can adapt to the increased demands of growth. It's crazy to think about, but if your product gets featured on national TV or just goes wildly viral overnight, it's an agile infrastructure that ensures your systems seamlessly handle thousands of new customers without instantly crashing. If you aren't scalable, your biggest success instantly becomes your biggest failure. But here's the catch. Scalability goes hand in hand with performance. Performance measures how quickly a system performs a process or transaction. You can scale your infrastructure to accept 1 million new users, sure, but if your system performance gets sluggish and it takes 30 seconds to load a single page during peak demand, you will instantly lose those hard-earned users. People will not wait. Your infrastructure has to be large enough to handle the crowd and fast enough to keep them happy.
So the proactive move here isn't waiting for growth to happen and then frantically scrambling to catch up. Strategic companies use capacity planning. This is the process of determining your future environmental infrastructure requirements to guarantee high-quality operation. It basically allows you to accurately predict what hardware and network resources you'll need tomorrow based on your growth trends today. It ensures you buy the right size servers long before that massive traffic surge actually hits.
Finally, all of this scalability and performance heavily depends on your underlying network architecture. It relies on the client-server network model, where heavy back-end processing stays on the servers while the front-end work is handled by the user's client. Next, it requires a robust network operating system to steer information securely and manage users. And lastly, it uses packet switching, which divides messages into efficiently sized units that just zip across connections. Uncovering these underlying architectures really reveals the invisible highways that allow your scalable, high-performance business to communicate rapidly and securely all over the globe.
So, that brings us to our final thought today. After walking through the vital importance of backup, disaster recovery, continuity planning, and agile scaling, you really have to take a hard look at your own organization's vulnerabilities. Ask yourself honestly, if a major disruption occurred this afternoon, or a massive wave of viral traffic hit your site tonight, would your IT infrastructure be your downfall or your ultimate safety net? Surviving and thriving in the digital age absolutely requires making infrastructure your highest priority, not just an afterthought. Thanks for joining me on this explainer, and I hope it gives you a powerful new perspective on the invisible systems that run our world. Catch you next time.